All right. Well, I wanted to just say something. One of my I have a lot. One of my favorite things to do, like I said before, is planning these youth councils events. And so when I have the opportunity to go around and to go to different events and meet new people, I'm like, I go to these things. I'm like, wow, that would be really cool to do here and to do in youth councils in Arkansas and Oklahoma. And a few years ago, we had an opportunity to go to Youth Specialties, and I believe that year it was in Atlanta, if I remember correctly. And we're walking into this really big, I think it was a civic center, and I walked in and I was like, I instantly started nodding my head. And you may or may not realize this about me, but I actually am a lover of hip hop and R&B and all kinds of music. But I really do. I mean, you can laugh, it's cool. But I love like just the beat. You know, when I hear a good beat, I just kind of nod my head, like Night at the Roxbury maybe, I don't know. But so we walk into the Civic Center. Yeah, Moses knows what I'm talking about. We walk into the Civic Center, and I just instantly started kind of nodding a little bit. You know, I'm like, what is that going on? And I start hearing this like mix of all these crazy songs, and it's like some kids start singing, I am a C, I am a CH. You know, we played that here, and then the beat drops. I'm like, what in the world? So I grab Nicole, and I drag her down. We go down to the front, and we get as close as we can to this DJ who is just like killing it up there. And I figure out who it is, and it's, DJ Promote. That's pretty cool. So I find him on Twitter. I start tweeting him, and then he like tweets me back like during the meeting, like after he gets done, like he instantly tweets me back. I'm like, oh yeah, the DJ tweeted me back. I'm like, somewhat famous now, you know. No, it was awesome, and then we just kept running into him at different things, and so we contacted his agent and all that, and we're able to get him a couple of years ago. You guys remember we had him a couple of years ago? And then, we just kept running into him, and we were able to meet his wife, and just, man, what incredible, cool people who are the real deal, you know? They are just incredible, and their witness and their ministry and their friendship has meant so much to me, so I was just so super stoked when we were able to bring him again this year for youth councils, and what an awesome thing to kind of pair him with Andy Mineo, and how that all worked out when Andy Mineo's DJ wasn't able to come and DJ Promote was here. It's like, man, it was just epic. And so I'm really excited about that. And one of the things that I wanted to do, I came across a YouTube video where he had shared his testimony. I was like, man, that would be really cool to give him an opportunity to share his heart and his background and his testimony with you guys today. So I've asked him to come and to do that. So I'm going to invite him to the stage and just give him the opportunity to share a little bit about himself and his testimony with us tonight. So would you get up for DJ Promote?
Thank you. Awesome. So I'm Mexican. My grandmother's from Mexico, but I am not. But I did grow up in Texas, which is pretty close to Mexico. Yeah. So I grew up in a city called San Angelo, Texas, and you know what that's in? All right. It's small. It's West Texas. It's a smaller city, and my dad was a professional drug dealer, and he robbed houses for a living. So when I was growing up, I moved house to house a lot. I think all the way up until about 3rd grade, we just always moved because my dad was selling drugs and things would get crazy, so we'd have to leave town, we'd have to move to another city, we'd have to move another house, not pay the rent. So we grew up with pretty crazy stuff. My mom was cool, but she was just kind of living with the deal, and my dad would get arrested all the time. And there was one time when I was actually with him when he got arrested, and we were driving from the house, and my uncle was following us, and I didn't know what we were doing. I was like in 3rd grade, and my little sister had just been born, so my other sister, who's a little younger than me, is in the back seat, and we're going somewhere, and all of a sudden, all these cops just come out of nowhere. So there's like 3 cops behind us, there's cops in front of us, there's cops turning down the street, there's all these cars, and they pull us over, and they pull my dad out, and then they get in the car, they move the car, and I'm asking him, the cop, like I'm in 3rd grade, I'm like, what is going on? Like, and he's like, oh, you have a license plate out or something. And I knew he was lying, so I was like, telling my other sister, don't talk to him, like he's lying to us. So they pulled a diaper bag out, my little sister's diaper bag, and my dad had laced all the diapers with weed. So he had hid all his weed in the diapers, and I guess we were going to do a drug deal somewhere. And I was like, what? My uncle kept driving, so he didn't get pulled over, so it's just me and my sisters were in the car, and I realized what's going on. Like, I knew my dad sold drugs, but it was just like a big deal all of a sudden. Like, I was really kind of like old enough to be in control of the situation, and I was really upset. So I turned around to look out the back of the window, and I could see my dad. He was in a paddy wagon. It's like the van where they sit a bunch of people in. And I guess they knew because they had wired our house, so it was like a pretty big deal. And I saw him and I wanted to say bye, but then I realized he was handcuffed and he couldn't wave. And it was just like, it was like that day I was like, I'm never gonna be like that. Like, I never wanna sell drugs, I never wanna live like that. I don't wanna drink, I don't wanna be crazy like my dad is. He got locked up and he went to prison for a while. I don't know if that was the first or second time. But when he got out, he was still crazy. He eventually stopped doing drugs, but he would still beat my mom. He would wreck our house. He would come home, trash our stuff. And I just got to where I didn't care. I was like, I'm calling the cops. So I would like, the craziest time was one time he was being crazy. I ran out the back door with my sister, and we're just running like across the street. I'm in my underwear. I'm just like, we're going across the street. Like, she falls in the dirt. I'm like, no. I'm trying to get her. My dad's coming. I'm like, no, he's going to get me. I make it across the street, call the cops. The neighbors hide me for a while. They come arrest my dad. It was just like that for a long time. So I grew up in just really crazy situations. I lived in a shelter for a little while with my mom and my sister. And it wasn't until junior high that my dad started getting his life together. And I didn't know this, but God had always been kind of trying to get my dad's attention, but he just never responded. I guess he went to church when he was in prison. God was talking to him. He just never responded. So when I was about 20, my dad went to church. We went to a funeral. And at this church, he gave his life to the Lord there. And he came back to the seat. I didn't know what was going on. And I was like, this is dumb. This church stuff is dumb. Like, I really was like, I don't know what's going on. But I could see that my dad was becoming different. He wasn't yelling anymore. He wasn't treating my mom bad. Like, I could just tell it was different. I started going to church, and it was like, I just wasn't into it. I was DJing. I was doing graffiti art. I was going to clubs. I was already like 20 years old. And it just wasn't cool to me. Church, I didn't believe in what they were telling me because I believed that, like, science was real. There's monkeys. Like, you can prove all that, but you can't prove that there's a God and that he loves me and that he's going to take care of me. And it took a long time. It took about 2 years for me to really grab hold of the fact that there was a God. And the reason is because I like to question things. And every time I would question the situation that was going on with God, he would prove to me that, like, it was real. So if there was something happening in my life and I was like, I'm over here hanging out with this chick and I'm sleeping around with her and I hate what's going on, and God tells me I don't need to do that, and I'll be like, dang, all right, I'm not going to do that. I would see the benefits of that, where God would bless me for not doing those things. And I became a Christian. It took about 2 years. I was in the movie theater, and God just, I was watching Stigmata. It was like a scary movie. And during the movie, it was like I just felt that God was real. And in that theater, I just turned to my friend and said, I want to serve you for the rest of my life. Like, I just want to give my whole heart to God. Graffiti, DJing, all the stuff I was doing. And it was crazy. I didn't ever go to the altar. And from that day on, I just kept serving God. I started doing youth stuff. I was like a youth pastor for 8 years in San Angelo, Texas. And all these times, I just kept testing God, like asking him what I needed to do. What am I supposed to do? And I knew when I was a little kid, there was things I wanted to do when I grew up. I used to think about Michael Jackson, and I used to be like, man, he's this little kid dancing on stage. Like, it's epic. There's something that, I felt that. Do any of y'all ever feel like that inside? Like, there's something. You're just like, man, I just want to do this awesome thing. I felt that when I was a little kid, and I never really gave up on that thing that was inside of me. And I'd always been telling God, I want to do this DJ thing, I want to do graffiti art, like, let me go do this. And he just kept telling me, like, to wait. I'm going to teach you things. You think that's big, like that's a big, awesome thing to be on stage and tour the country and all that stuff. But I want to teach you what is important in life. And he taught me that people were important. That what I'm doing isn't really important, but that individual people were more important to him than me being on stage and showing off my gifts. And about 4 years ago, I'd already been DJing and touring a little bit, but about 4 years ago, I started touring hardcore. Like, I felt like God told me to quit my job. I quit my job, and he just started getting me booked places. And I started DJing in places like youth conferences, at churches. And even just this last year, God told me, like, I just talk to God all the time, and he just tells me stuff. So I was in a restroom, and he said, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "For what?" He didn't say nothing, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And the only thing I could think of is that I would eventually tour with somebody like a big artist. But I was like, God ain't gonna do something like that if I could guess it. It's gonna be better than that. Sure enough, by November, I got a call from this guy named Chris Tomlin, who's like a worship leader. And I didn't know who he was. I was like, I don't know who. They Facebooked me and asked if I could go on tour with them. And I was like, I don't know who this is. I looked him up, and I was like, oh, this guy does worship music. I told you I had to go to church. I listen to rap music. So last year, I got to tour with Chris Tomlin. I did like 56 cities, and he basically just let me do what I did here every night for 15 minutes. We toured every city in the biggest venues, 8,000, 16,000 a night. They filmed a DVD. It was crazy. This year I went on another tour with Lecrae. I've been DJing for him. Some of y'all went, it was Winter Jam. We went on that one. I helped Lecrae create all his sets. I put them all together. And the same thing every night. I throw a party on stage. And all that just to say, when I was little, I didn't know that was going to happen. And that's not even that important. It's just that God made me to do something, and he taught me these things as I was growing up. And I didn't pursue those things. Instead, I just trusted him all the time. Like, it's going to get better. Like, this sucks right now, but eventually something's going to get better. And I think a lot of times people just give up, and they just say, it's not going to get better. My family life sucks, and I'm pregnant, whatever, this is going on, and they just give up. But I feel like that's when you're not obeying God. You're actually giving up on the things that he's telling you to do, and you're not being obedient. And I feel like the only way I'm free, I feel like I'm so free, like I can do anything. And I'm not really concerned about the outcome. It's more just about being obedient to God. And if he tells me to quit DJing, then I'll be able to quit because I'm not pursuing those gifts. But I just want to encourage you, if there's something that God put in you, there's something in there that just to hear his small voice and to just, lay your life down and say, I'll obey you, God. And you have to give him those gifts. You can't say, oh, you said that I would be a rapper. I'm going to go pursue rapping. You have to say, God, you're showing me this thing, and I'm going to give it to you, and I need you to teach me the things that I need to do so that I can go do this. And if I didn't learn the things God wanted to teach me, there'd be no way I could tour the country. And someone asked me today, how is it to go DJ for like 8,000 people and then come here? For me, it's the same thing because this is what he called me to do. I play music, and I want to share that joy with other people, and it doesn't matter the size of the room or whatever. So anyways, that's kind of my story in a nutshell, and just wanted to share that with you. Also, thank you guys for bringing me every year. I love it. It's so much fun. Awesome. Let's party tonight, right?